Runewords have arrived on the PDR and they're going to make every single build straight up better, reducing your cooldowns, giving you free overpower critical strikes, and in the bottom left you can see the progress on your rune until it gets triggered by this half grayed out symbol. This has reduced my ultimate cooldown by 4 seconds and it's bound to casting my core skill. Activate my ulti, spam away, and the progress bar just keeps moving forward on this one. I can actively see it. And the right one is my new free overpower critical strike. That's also slowly creeping forward. Now the left one is obviously happening way faster because it's bound to my core skill and I'm just spamming them away like crazy. And the way they work is they have a trigger, a ritual rune. That's for example, Tum. Cast a non-channel core skill for 25 offering. Every offering just moves this bar further upwards. And then there's the invocation, Zac. Reduce your active ultimate cooldown by 4 seconds and it requires 200 offering. Ergo, if I now have Tum and Zac together, it says cast a non-channeled core skill 8 times, reduce your active ultimate cooldown by 4 seconds. And this helps me in my existing build without doing anything bonus to just have my ultimate skill permanently online. I'm spamming away my core skill. I'm changing nothing in my playstyle. My ultimate is just back up before it even ends. Permanent ultimate. Just like, I didn't change anything like in my playstyle. I just added the runes. Now this is great because it only requires 200 offering. Really easy to trigger. But getting your next skill cast to overpowering critical strike requires 700 offering. And if I would now use the Tum rune to trigger this, we would be looking at 700 offering divided by 25 per core skill cast. Every 28 core skills, I could get a free overpower crit. Now that sounds technically bad, but on the other hand, I'm just doing what I do, right? I just stand on a boss, I cast away in every 28 of my ultimates. I'm casting quite a lot of them, right? Would just be another overpower critical strike without me having to do anything for it. I just get it. So worst case scenario, you just get a cool effect for free. But obviously we want to get this 700 offering more likely. One very important rule, you can't use the same ritual twice. So I have the cast a non-channel core skill currently for my ultimate cooldown reduction. I can't use it as well for my critical strike overpower. For my critical strike overpower, I currently have spent 5% of your maximum resource gain to offering. Now the issue with this one is even if I spend 100% of my resource, that's only 20 times 5%. So it's only 40 offering. And right now I would have to spend 1,750% of your maximum resource to get that overpower critical strike. Now there are some triggers that don't make sense, like gain 10 offering up to 100% chance against injured enemies with a lucky hit. Only works against injured enemies, huh? So useless for essentially 65% HP of the fight during a boss. You can travel 5 meters for 50 offering. That's incredible for barbarians. Alternatively though, you could stand still for 0.3 seconds and what are we doing in a boss fight as a Blood Surge build? Well, we're simply standing still. And like you notice right now how this is actually filling up quite fast. I'm standing still, I'm spamming my ultimate, but I don't have to do anything. I just have to stand still and I'm essentially just going to get another free overpower critical strike. In this case, I need to stand still for 8 seconds. So every 8 seconds, that would net me another overpower critical strike on an overpower build, where I'm anyways getting one every 15 seconds. Not too shabby. But there are actually better effects than one single free overpower critical strike. Instead of trying to get the 700 offering, I could also get the Druid's Petrify, stunning enemies and increasing your critical strike damage against them. Now let's look at Petrify here. Encase all nearby enemies in stone, stunning them for 3.75 seconds. You deal 30% increased critical strike damage. Cool. Against bosses, the critical strike bonus is increased to 50%. Its duration is increased to 7.5 seconds. That's only 500 offering, and currently with 700 offering, it takes 8 seconds of standing still. Well, I don't have to stand still for 8 seconds to essentially get a permanent critical strike damage bonus against bosses. Or alternative, you could trigger the enhanced Warcry from the Barbarian. And guess what? Mighty Warcry, increasing your damage dealt by 15% for 6 seconds and nearby allies for 3. Plus, an unranged Warcry has you berserking. But the coolest thing is creating an infinite loop of offering generation. There's the Soul Ritual. Gain 150 offering, evoke a power from another class. Okay, that's step number 1. We need to cast a skill from another class. Now, obviously, Petrify is kind of expensive. And if you're not a Necromancer, it gets really cool here. Because evoke the Necromancer's Horrid Decrepify, slowing enemies, reducing their damage, and letting you execute them. It would be 40% damage reduction, 20% slow, and when you or your minions hit an enemy afflicted by Decrepify below 10% life, they're instantly killed. Now, the interesting part is not the Decrepify itself, it costs only 100 offering. So if you're anything but a Necromancer, you could just use your cast non-channeled core skills. So 4 core skills cast instantly triggers your Decrepify. And then as soon as you trigger Decrepify, you would get 150 offering. So every 4 core skill casts, it's Decrepify plus 150 offering, which then could be instantly used to either get you your Petrify, and if you then trigger the Petrify, then you would invoke another 150 offering. So as soon, like, you're essentially casting your core skills to Decrepify to then, well, cast the Petrify because you're evoking other classes' power. But then evoking another class power just actually fuels into it back itself. That would be the fastest crazy trigger that you could just get going. My problem as a Necro is that the cheapest skill you can essentially get is currently the Spiritborn's Concussive Stomp. There's nothing cheaper. It's like 400, 800, 400 offering. I mean, there's 150 for Rogue's Dark Shroud's Shadow, but that's not evoking a skill, that's just getting a Dark Shroud Shadow. So I can get the Concussive Stomp here. That is 250 offering. And if I would now do this with my core skill casts, I would still have 250 divided by 25, do 10 core skill casts. I guess that's fine-ish. Let's try it out. We're going to take evoke a power from another class, and that one is going to reduce your active ultimate cooldowns, okay? I want to do the active cooldowns down now. And then I'm essentially going to cast my non-channeled skills to give myself the Concussive Stomp. And since this is going to give me straight away 10 times, I'm going to get the 150. I need for this 2 times for the cooldown reduction, and the more offering I actually create, the bigger the cooldown reduction will be, because sometimes there's like an over siphon into it. And now we're activating our ultimate. I'm just casting away. We're getting that Concussive Stomp, and boom, instantly my cooldown reduction is working. And then Concussive Stomp again, cooldown reduction is working, boom. And that's like a nice feed into these two. And it just keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. Now let's see how that will work with the Petrify, because we said like we trade the Concussive Stomps, 150, 150, 150. Then we do get, for example, the Petrify or the Warcry from the Barbarian. And that should funnel into it itself. We're getting the 150 offering for evoking, and then we're going to do the Petrify. Now that would be 4 times Concussive Stomp to get it done, right? So I need to essentially get the Concussive Stomp after 10 core skill cast for the 150 offering, and then I would have to get the power there. And you kind of notice how somewhat inefficient that is for the Necro, because I need to get the 250 instead of 100 offering. Yet though, we're close to actually getting the Petrify triggered, so there it's about to trigger. Next time we're going to get that out. Okay, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we just need to do another 5 more. And then we already have our Decrepify out, and that Decrepify should evoke itself. Now imagine instead of the Concussive Stomp, we only spend 100 offering, right? That goes vastly faster. So Necro is a tiny bit screwed here. Okay, I'm going to activate the Petrify. And it does not actually funnel back into itself. That would have been too nice to be true, because technically we're evoking a power, right? And it should have straight away triggered into this again. Maybe that is a bug, maybe that is also working as intended, which doesn't change the efficiency of this combination because it creates just so much offering. And Decrepify is probably one of the best things that another class could simply have. But we can do a step simpler as well, because you can just simply get yourself more critical strike chance, and that is up to 25% bonus. Yes, 25 offering, that's pretty simple to get. In this case, you might just use your spend resource to gain offering, because no matter how slow this is, right? It's only 2 for 5%. You're spamming away your resource and you'll get, end of the day, 25% bonus crit chance during the whole boss fight, during your whole dungeon. Done. For a Bone Spirit build, for example, invaluable, I guess for every build, just getting 25% crit chance, bringing it up to 100% crit chance, why not? But you could also restore one primary resource. And the good thing is you could overflow this. So it requires 5 offering. And I get increased resource if I overflow this. So let's say if I'm now using 25 offering to get 1 resource, it would be 5 times 1 resource. So for casting a core skill, I could always refund 5 resource, which does work quite well for Crown of Lucian builds, which will make our core skills cost way more resource. So a simple bonus solution to your resource issues, and you don't have to do anything for it, right? You just have to cast the core skill you're anyways casting, or cast a skill with a cooldown, which is also a very good one, especially for our friends, the sorcerers, who can just spam away the Yul. There's not a Necro build that's really going many cooldowns like boop, 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 which is not completely true because there is actually an intriguing one. And that would be the Bone Spirit build. And Bone Spirit is actually a cooldown skill that you can reduce, though, to 0 cooldown. And if you're then spamming a Bone Spirit with 0 cooldown, we're looking at getting 50 offering every Bone Spirit cast, and you can just hold down your right mouse button. But here comes the interesting part, because it gets really crazy there. If I'm now spamming Bone Spirit, which is an active cooldown skill, Bone Spirit is also a core skill. What? Yeah. Spamming Bone Spirit in this case will give me 50 offering, and then 25 offering for casting a non-channeled core skill. That means I can activate 2 invocations without having to do anything bonus for it. I just have to exist. And the interesting thing is that, well, what does Bone Spirit want? Bone Spirit wants to be always technically at full resource, right? Depending on how you play it. But you want to have this 300 resource full after every single cast. So if I'm now getting already 50 offering, that would be 10 times what I get here. That should restore 10 primary resource with every cast of my Yul Rune. And then counting in a huge amount of essence generation bonus that we can boost even further with our sacrifices. And suddenly there's something beautiful going on. Runewords are truly going to transform every build to the better. For my Blood Surge build, I'm definitely running the Zac combo for the ultimate cooldown reduction, that my cooldown is always active, that I never not have Soul Rift. And the second most reliable one has been Gar for that 25% crit. And that's simply followed up with Pock. That gives me the offering for spending my resource. Like this, I'm essentially boosting up my critical strike chance from a measly 63.1% to 90% critical strike chance, as I do have like my 3000% critical strike damage bonus and my 10,000% overpower. So yeah, that kind of works perfectly into what we're actually doing. Build straight up better and more powerful than it could possibly be. Now there's plenty more fun and amazing combinations. Simple, your next non-basic skill cast spends all of your primary resource to deal up to 100% increased damage. You could technically just funnel this in if you have an infinite resource build and just have every 400 offering another Giga Bam. Or if you have a rogue build that could, for example, spam Death Trap. Any build, to be honest, that can spam the ultimate. And there's definitely the one or the other druid that can just go Cataclysm, 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 Cataclysm. That's 150 offering per spam of an ultimate skill. It is marked as only a magic rune, but for some, this might be better than anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, what are you thinking about Runewords? Do you like what they have to offer? It's a nice little bonus boost without having to do much. Obviously, it's only for people that bought the game, so I'm sorry if you did not buy the game. And if you do want to see now already a build in action that we whipped out on the test server for the Necro, Sever is now better than ever. And don't worry, Blood Search is saved as well, as we have seen here, and I'll bring this build to you as well.